Hello, everybody. This is Jeff Bell with ABA Advisors. Welcome to this webinar for accounting practice owners that might be thinking about selling your firm. On our webinar today, it's titled Finding the Right Buyer for Your Accounting, CPA, or EA practice in 2025 or 2026 and beyond. Hope that's appropriate for everybody, whether you're listening live today on Friday, the 24th, or you're listening on the replay. Either way, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to learn a little bit more about selling your firm. If you've not met me or we've not talked before, I work for ABA Advisors. Again, my name's Jeff Bell. We're accounting practice business brokers. We help accountants, CPAs, and EAs sell their firms here in the U.S. And as a company, we've been selling accounting firms for 15 plus years. Our president, Chuck Hayes, has been doing this for, well over 20 years, and he was in the industry as a lender for several years before that. So again, today is Friday, the 24th of 2025. If you're watching this replay, know that some of the information I'm going to cover today is going to change with time as we move into the year. On the screen, you'll see what we're going to cover on the webinar today. Basically 4 items, some in detail, some in summary. The biggest thing is I'm going to be sharing with you, based on my years of experience talking with buyers of firms, what they are looking for, and they typically analyze in a practice that they want to acquire. There's about 24 of these items that we're going to cover today. I'll run through those as fast as I can and kind of give you the buyer perspective. Kind of think of this as if you're selling your home, like in residential real estate. This is going to be what these buyers are looking for in a house. Same thing goes here for an accounting, CPA firm, EA firm. I'll talk a little bit about the current market in 2025 and beyond, what we're seeing out there, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. I'll talk a little bit about the timing, if you do want to sell here in 2025 or 2026 and beyond. And last but not least, if you're interested, based on what I'm telling you, some next step options to get started. So again, our company name is ABA Advisors. We're accounting practice business brokers. This is our website. You can always go online and see us on ACCTSALES.com. That's our splash screen. We're based in Indianapolis, Indiana, but we're a national brokerage firm. We represent and sell firms in 47 of the 50 states, from Hawaii, Washington, Oregon on the West Coast, all the way up to the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, down to Florida, Miami, Texas, and so on. The only states we don't represent at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken, are the states of California. Also, we don't do business in Arizona and Minnesota. So again, you can always see us online on our website and view any of the current listings we have at www.ACCTSALES.com. Here's a couple tombstones or completed acquisitions that we've sold recently in the last couple of years. The one up there, the $4 million at the top, was a firm that was $2 million, and the office that they had along with it was $2 million. That was actually down in Fort Lauderdale, that Florida. That was an enrolled agent or an EA firm. Most of these others are either single firms or multiple partner firms all across the country. Down here in Indy, up in Wisconsin, the $2.25 million one was out in Seattle, Central Michigan. The one here in Green Bay, we just closed on this week. Another one down in Texas we closed on late last year. So again, just some examples of some of the different firms that we have dealt with in the past. You can see me here. I'm on LinkedIn. If you're interested, you're always welcome to connect with me there. You can see, again, a little bit about myself. Jeff Bell is my name. It's a common name. But if you look for ABA Advisors, you're welcome to connect. I do post when we have new listings there for buyers, but also it's a way to connect with potential sellers like yourself. So you can always find me there. And again, just one last housekeeping item. If you're thinking about selling your practice, this is I guess you would call it maybe a little bit of a sales pitch, but the process that we go through, we like to call it our professional process of seller representation services. And these are quickly just the 8 kind of steps that we go through to find the right buyer. When you hire us to sell an accounting firm, we first off look at the buyer profile target, who you think would be a good buyer for your firm. Take care of your clients, your staff, if you have that, or other partners. We do regional and national marketing, but we cloak and hide the firm, you as a salesperson. So ideally, it could be the firm next door. Your buddy could run into the advertising that we do, and that he wouldn't or she wouldn't know that you're selling your firm. We qualify potential buyers. That's a big chunk of what our time, effort, and money is spent on. We may get, depending upon your location, 50, 100, sometimes 200 different potential buyers, and we whittle those down to just maybe a dozen or so that are qualified and the best, and hopefully we end up with an offer or two to present to you. We do facilitate these buyer-seller introductions, whether that be a phone call, could be a Zoom call. Sometimes we do have meetings with people, especially in the local markets. As a broker, we negotiate letters of intent on your behalf, try and get the best terms for your sale of your firm. Although price for a lot of our sellers isn't the most important thing, it is one of the most important things. We always want to make sure that we maximize that price for you and the terms of that. Number 6, we do due diligence assistance with sellers and buyers. The buyers go through this, and although I don't have it on here on the slide, in this particular section, we're working a lot with local or regional and national banks to, from a lender standpoint, help potential buyers find financing. Some buyers do have a bucket of gold and money that they want to use themselves, but more often than not, they're looking at some kind of local or regional or often a national lender to help them with a loan. And so we facilitate. We have a network of pre-approved lenders that we refer them to. So it's kind of a dual process. And then as we get close to the end of the process, which could take several months or years, we're also negotiating the purchase agreement on your behalf to make sure that's correct. We kind of serve 4 masters: yourself, the buyer, attorneys that you engage at this point, and last but not least, any lender that's helping with that. And then step 8 up here, closing coordination of all parties. That's part of our job, again, as brokers, that we work with everybody that I just mentioned and anybody else if there's multiple partners on the deal, just to coordinate everything so that the closing is smooth and you can, as a seller, transition your firm, your clients, your staff, if any partners over to the new buyer. So again, on this webinar, as we jump in here, I'm going to cover again what buyers are looking for when they acquire a practice, the current market, timing, if you want to sell this year or next and beyond, and some next step options. And so this is kind of I would call it a cheat sheet, but I call it the top 24 firm variables, or could be characteristics, that most practice buyers consider when looking at scanning different firms online that are for sale, trying to value them and ultimately make an offer to buy a firm, in this case your firm. And some are more important than others, but I'm just going to run through these and kind of talk about what buyers tell us when we do talk to them. The first 6, and obviously the very first one, is gross revenue of the firm. Buyers are looking at what they're going to buy in terms of that revenue stream, and typically they're going to be looking at the last 3 years of revenue. And if I were to employ a bad, good, better, or best kind of a scale for the last 3 years of revenue, it would be bad if your revenue, say, for a firm was $1 million 3 years ago. 2 years ago it was, $750K, and last year it was $500K. That'd be a decline, and that's going to scare a lot of buyers. What's good, and what we typically see, is some kind of gross revenue that's pretty flat, maybe slightly inclined. 250 this year, 275 or 250 3 years ago, 275 2 years ago, and then maybe 300 this last year. And if you're projecting, a little bit of an increase the current year, that's always good. A highly, I guess, inclining revenue where your gross revenue was 250K 3 years ago, 500K 2 years ago, and then 750 or $1 million this last year. Sometimes that scares off buyers because they think, you know what, a lot of these clients, although they may be good and profitable, they've just been added recently and there's no loyalty to the firm. And so they're somewhat skeptical that those kind of people can be transitioned over. And a lot of times they'll adjust their purchase price or terms on whatever offers they make for that. So gross revenue for the last 3 years, if that's pretty consistent, that's probably a good thing if you're a potential seller of your accounting firm. The location of your practice, whether that's some kind of a metro area or it's in a big city or rural, it's going to be a big determinant of the value that your practice is going to fetch in terms of a purchase price. The big metro cities are the best, metropolitan areas. I'll cover this a little bit later, but places like Los Angeles, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Miami. Those are the biggest areas, and those command the highest multiples. A lot of times we see in those areas multiples somewhere in the 1.25 to 1.5 times gross revenue. We just sold a firm third, fourth quarter last year up in the Seattle Bellevue area that even though the location wasn't in a huge metro area, it had some other features that I'm going to talk about here soon, that it had a multiple of 1.5 times gross in terms of a sales price. So location is going to determine a lot of the value of your practice in terms of offers from buyers. Profitability of your practice is also going to be a big determinant. Seller's discretionary earning is another way we phrase that, or cash flow, and that sellers tend to look at. Banks also look at this awful. The higher the profitability, the better. If you're in the teens or the 20s, it's going to fetch a lower multiple, lower offers. 30 to 50 is about average. Excuse me, the larger firms that we see tend to be on the low range. If you're from the 50 to 70, 75 range, that's very, very attractive to other potential buyers. Client mix is another aspect that sellers, I guess you need to be aware of, that buyers look at. Are you all tax? Are you all accounting? Are you a mix of both? Healthy blend, 50-50 or somewhere 60-40 of a blend is what we typically see for most firms. Less and less buyers are wanting a full tax firm. More and more they'd like to get the accounting clients because of the smoothness of the revenue over the year and I guess the retentive nature of accounting clients. Their fear is always, well, a tax client may be here 1 year and gone the next, where accounting clients tend to stay. If you've bundled both of those, then that's always good. Those clients tend to stick more and stay around longer because you've got more hooks in them, so to speak, and they're less likely to leave. So the client mix is another determinant of the attractiveness of your firm. The fees that you charge to clients on average are going to be a determinant on a bad, good, or better scale. If you're below fees, especially for taxes, below H&R Block, Liberty Tax, Jackson Hewitt, buyers are not going to be wanting to acquire a firm like that. If you're about average for the market, that's good. And if you're above average, that's even better. The higher the fees, the more profitable those clients tend to be, and buyers are more attractive to those. The paperless aspect of your firm, the question they ask us is the firm paperless? If you answer yes, then that's very attractive. If not, that's less attractive. If you're moving towards that in some way, could be you've got a system in place, or you're scanning beforehand or scanning afterwards. That's always better. Number 7, the staff that are in your firm, if any. Buyers are also very interested in the number of staff that you have, what their experience is, their skills or pay level, and more and more important these days, whether they are staying with the firm or whether they are going to be leaving and retiring with you, or some combination of that. We see more and more buyers buy firms, especially if they're staff, just for the staff, because they've maxed out in their area or nearby you as a seller of a firm, and they're looking to hire staff. If you've noticed, there's pretty much a national shortage of good qualified accountants, especially CPAs. And so the more staff that you can offer, even if you could be maybe slightly overstaffed, the more attractive your firm is going to be. The client age, again, I kind of touched on this when we talked about gross revenue on item 1. Are they long-term clients or are they brand new clients? The more longer the term, the better. Sometimes we do get a little bit of pushback from potential buyers that if they're too long-term, 40, 30 years, that they feel like the clients may be senior and they may lose them to attrition or them passing, but that doesn't happen too often. Another question is going to be, what type of concentration of clients do you have? Do you have one, or do you specialize in one particular area? Are all your clients restaurants, or are they all ag-based farmers? Or is there a particular age group or subset of clients that you work with, partnerships, only business clients, things like that? Some concentrations buyers are interested in more than others. Some they're less interested in. And so if you have that, or if you don't, and you just have a nice blend of a little bit of everybody and everything, that's always good too. There's no concentration risk, as they might say. Large clients, if you have some particularly large clients where the percentage of the gross revenue of that particular client is 10% or more, sometimes that's a yellow, if not a red flag, to potential buyers. In banks, I was talking to a seller just the other day. I think they had a family that had several businesses. Maybe they had some real estate, and so they were maybe 15% of the gross revenue. Sometimes buyers are interested in that as a big chunk of revenue to acquire. Other times they're a little bit skittish about that, and as a seller we may have to do a carve-out or some kind of special language in any kind of purchase agreement if for some reason a large client would leave shortly after a sale. Virtual practices are probably here, item number 11, our most popular practice right now that we see in terms of if you're a buyer. Virtual, sometimes the word remote is a descriptor of your practice. If you can, A, operate it anywhere in the U.S., that's very attractive. B, if your staff are virtual, meaning they don't come into a physical office, and they just work remotely. We did have a client, I think it was towards the end of 2023 that happened to be here in the Indianapolis area, and the client it was about $1.5 million, $1.6 million firm, and he had 20 plus staff members who were all virtual. Nobody really came into the office, and if anybody from anywhere could run that. And then last but not least, virtual also can mean sometimes that you've trained your clients to give you or send in their information completely electronically. They're not stopping by the office. They're not dropping anything off. They're not talking with you. Again, we sold a firm just a while back where the CPA had trained all his clients to do everything with him that needed to be done with clients remotely, through email, through the web portal, through Zoom calls, through phone calls. And so virtual firms command a premium in the market right now. So I hope that's helpful. Info delivery, kind of just touched on this. Big question is going to be, are you as the owner using your website or a portal for clients to send their information to you, email, do they mail things or they drop off? The less attractive firms that are on the market right now, or where a large majority or all people are dropping things off, or even if you do taxes while you wait, because firms like that, the H&R Block type, are just less attractive. More and more accountants and CPAs don't want to do that type of work. On the next page, 13 through 18, I'll cover these real quick. Non-compete agreements. The question is going to be from buyers: do you have agreements? Non-compete, non-solicitation agreements, employment agreements signed with your staff. If you do, that protects the buyer at the point of sale and after closing, so a staff member doesn't go off, take your database, or try and go out and poach clients from the new owner of the firm. If you have those, great. If you're looking at selling your firm, later this year, 2026 and beyond, it's always a good time during review time with staff to get those in place. Even if you would think that they would be loyal to you and wouldn't do that, buyers aren't so sure, and they don't know the staff like you do, and so better to have those than not. Engagement letters, those are often questions. Do you use those with clients? Are they physical letters that you send out? Organizers? Sometimes the organizers now and these days are electronic. That's always good. Software that you use. Question is going to be, what platforms are you on for your tax and accounting? And any other kind of software. Could be payroll software platforms. Do you use a CRM or some type of practice management software? There are obviously a variety of platforms. The big platforms that are out there: Thomson Reuters, Drake, Intuit, on down the list. The question always becomes, if platforms don't match, can the seller export and transfer the client base over to the new platform, or does the buyer adopt the seller's platform? Is that license transferable? Things like that. The software companies more and more have, the ability to transfer things very quickly, but that's always a question. Your office space is another question. Do you own your space, or do you rent it, lease it? What's the length of the rental agreement? Do you have a nice landlord? Are they going to be okay with somebody, a new buyer coming in, taking that over? Will they sign landlord waivers? Sometimes banks require that for loans. Or, as in the case of this one firm, the enrolled agent firm that we sold down in Fort Lauderdale a while back, do you own that, or are you willing to sell it as a package deal? Buyers will come in. In this case, we had a buyer that was not only interested in the $2 million firm, but also interested in the $2 million building. They actually moved their office from wherever they were located down in Miami up to Fort Lauderdale. So any rate, that's always a question. Who to sell to? Number 17, does the buyer, can they just be an accountant, or do they need to be a CPA? Could an enrolled agent buy your firm? If you're doing reviews and that type of work where, a CPA is required, that kind of narrows down potential buyers. If you have accountants or EAs who aren't CPAs. Another question that I ask sellers is there anybody that you need to exclude from buying? There may be somebody in your neighborhood, in your zip code, in your city or town that you just don't like. They're a bad apple. And you want to exclude them. Or maybe, because I've run into this, maybe you feel like nobody in town could actually handle your clients, or it might tip another potential buyer off if you live in a small town, that you're the one that's selling if we reveal that. So sometimes there are exclusions. If there are no exclusions, it just makes our job easier as brokers to find more potential buyers for you. And then item 18, the exit of the timing. You as a seller, and we could do a whole webinar on this, but what's your timing? Do you want to close the deal, transition clients to the new owner, and then leave for good? Do you want to stay maybe for an extended period? And that's dependent upon does the buyer want you, or what kind of compensation you could get or incentives to stay, or are you willing to stay on, as we've seen multiple times in multiple owner and partner firms, some of the larger firms that we've brokered. Maybe there's a staggered exit timing. One partner, let's say 3 partners, there was one we just listed and sold down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. One partner wanted to transition and exit sooner rather than later after closing. Another one was willing to stay on for another 3 to 5 years, and another one was a younger partner and was willing to work for another decade. And so those are all things to consider, and that we as brokers help you figure out along with potential buyers. On the next slide, the last 6, financials. Do you have those available not only for buyers but for lenders? Typically, lenders, whether it be conventional or SBA, are going to look for the last 3 years of financials and tax returns from you. Once in a blue moon, we'll run into an accountant that for some reason doesn't have clean financials. Maybe they've combined a couple businesses. We run into this occasionally where a CPA or an accountant will also have a financial services firm and combine those financials. It's best, if you're thinking about this and you have some time, to split those companies out so the financials and the tax returns are separate. It helps lenders approve loans and buyers get a cleaner look at your firm. Seller notes, or other words for this, seller financing. Are you open to that? More and more buyers, especially if they've gone through this process before with a seller, like to have, quote unquote, the seller have skin in the game, unquote. And so they're going to ask for a seller note, and it varies. Sometimes those notes length, they'll ask for 2, 3, 5 years and a larger amount. As brokers, we're always going to try and minimize the amount of those notes and the length of those notes, because 1 or 2 years past when you sell the firm, you can't really influence what the buyer's doing. And that kind of leads us to item 21, retention. Is there going to be some type of retention or clawback or performance-based calculus on the seller note? And if you're open to that, to the length of that and what the calculation can be, buyers are going to be more likely to find your practice attractive. Or if you're less flexible on that, then they'll just adjust their offer to try and compensate for that. Down payment or cash paid at closing is the next item. If you're okay with less of a down payment and more of some type of seller note, that's more and more attractive to potential buyers. If you'd like more of that cash paid at closing, we'll negotiate that on your behalf. Again, buyers will tend to adjust their offers and the terms of those offers according to what that cash down payment is. And we're pretty good at negotiating that with people, and that's part of our job. But and that kind of leads us to number 23. Just in general, the more flexible you are in these terms of sale, the more potential buyers we can get to talk to you, A, and then B, make offers and hopefully, find the right one that's a good fit for you based on your flexibility. And then last but not least, item 24, what's the transition plan post-sale? This is a little bit of what we talked about before, but nowadays we're seeing more and more CPAs, maybe they're working for a larger firm, and they would like for you and all the staff to stay for an extended period. So there's a longer transition. Maybe they don't have some of the skills or the experience if they came from a smaller firm, or it could be they've worked for a regional or a larger firm, and now they focus on large firms. Now they're going to have to do a lot of 1040s, things that they're not used to, and just smaller clients. And so they want you to stay on longer. Lately, we've had a lot of private equity firms, venture capital firms, and even serial entrepreneurs that want the buyer to stay post-sale 1, 2, 3 years, where they come in, and some provide on-site management. Some would rather manage it from a distance. So this is something where if you're looking at selling 3 to 5 years from now, we may have a lot of those types of folks, again, private venture or private equity or venture capital people that are interested in acquiring a firm like yours. Again, something just to consider. But these are basically the top 24 firm variables that buyers are looking at. And from a checklist standpoint, the more of those that you can check off or you're flexible with, the more potential buyers we can put in front of you and try and get them to make offers with you. And the faster you'll sell your firm, and if timing's an issue, that's just something to consider. The next big question is, what's the market here in 2025 and beyond? I guess easiest way to describe this is that if you're located in a large metro area, and these are some of the cities that I talked about before, New England, New York, New Jersey area, Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, maybe Miami, you might include that, that strip up there or down there in the southeast of Florida. These larger metro areas are going to command the highest multiples, and it's somewhat of a seller's market, meaning we'll find a lot of potential buyers for you and have you talk to those folks, and we'll probably get a higher multiple if you're located in those areas, everything else being even. It's a buyer's market if you're not in those areas and you're in any other kind of smaller city or town or rural area. But if you go through, again, those 24 items and you consider that a checklist, if you're able to check off half of those or more and you're flexible, it becomes less and less of a buyer's market and a little bit easier for us as brokers to find qualified people that are interested, have the money, in some cases maybe willing to relocate to come to you and, take over your firm, take care of your clients, and manage your staff. And again, that's kind of, our job here, to not only do local, regional, national marketing to literally thousands of accountants across the country and the region to generate potential leads and buyer prospects, but then, to narrow those down to the best of the best so that you can talk and meet with those folks. It's not uncommon for us to do our professional process over here on the left and, market again to thousands of clients, get 50 or 100 potential buyers that we talk to in terms of leads, but just narrow that down to maybe a dozen phone interviews or Zoom calls that you talk to these folks and meet and maybe get 1, 2, sometimes 3 offers over the course of time. But that's basically the market for 2025 and beyond. I don't know if you've heard the statistics, but if you're familiar with who the baby boomers are now, there's 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. I think that number starting in 2025 has jumped to maybe 11,000 or so, but that's going to continue on for the next several years. And so we've got a lot of sellers on, like yourself that are potentially looking to retire, and a lot of buyers that see a lot of these sellers and are looking at these firms. And so again, if you can, from the top 24 standpoint, check off most of those boxes, we're going to have more and more people, and it'll become less of a buyer's market if you're in some of these rural areas. How do we do this? Just real quick, I won't go into the details, but we run national and regional advertising. We make phone calls to our database, which is extensive. We'll do direct mails to our list and even some cold lists. We send out a lot of emails, text, and we use the internet and some creative ways to find these accountants and potential buyers for your firm. So now we come to timing. Again, here we're at the end of January 2025. The timing on, if you call me tomorrow or Monday and say, Jeff, I'd like to sell my firm, and I want you to get started on it. There probably is an entire either 3 to 9 months on average, window of what we typically take to find the right buyer for your firm and close that transaction and start to transition. If you've got a virtual firm, we've found buyers in less than a few weeks, gotten offers within a month, and closed within a month and a half. If you're in some of the more rural areas, it could take 9 months, 6 months. Some of the larger firms, like I say down here, could take 2 to 3 years. It just depends upon what your firm is like, your history, some of these items, and your flexibility. Right down here, it's not uncommon for us to, from a marketing standpoint, take calls. Like right now, we are still talking to sellers and getting our materials together that we're going to start listing them in May, right after tax season, and chances are they'll sell sometime in August all the way through December of 2025. That's a good timing to potentially be aware of. For the larger firms, or again, firms that don't check all those boxes, it can take longer. Larger firms, again, whether you're 1, 2, 3, 4 million, could take in an entire year through the end of this year, Q4, or any time in 2026 to find, just because there's fewer other firms. What's the old saying? Smaller fish can't swallow bigger fish. It's the other way around, and so it just takes longer. There's few of those potential firms from an acquisition standpoint to acquire you. So here, there's really 3 steps if you're, seriously considering getting started this year that you can take. If you're interested in having this be your last tax season. As I mentioned, right now we're signing seller listing agreements, but in some buyers we are starting marketing here during tax season. But right now we're sort of planning on starting our marketing and waiting until tax season is over. Typically that's May 1st. That gives you guys and people time to get through the deadline, take a week or 2 off in some cases, and just recharge your batteries and start marketing on May 1st. A little inside baseball, there is a little bit of a buyer frenzy after tax season that you can always take advantage of. Buyers tend to know this. Obviously, other accountants and CPAs that have gone through tax seasons, they know that there's a chunk of people that have gone through a tax season and say, that's it. I can't take it anymore. My wife, my spouse, my husband, is wanting me to retire, spend more time with the family, grandkids, things like that. And so we've got a lot of buyers that are waiting with bated breath, so to speak, till after tax season to look at firms. Another option B, is just wait until after tax season to contact us. Sometimes we get a large amount of phone calls after tax season and emails that we respond to. Typically, we'll get those potential sellers all teed up and do marketing in June or July. And again, it's from a timing standpoint, you could probably expect to sell your firm if you wait until then, somewhere between Q4 of 2025 and the beginning of 2026. Or, not to say those are the 2 best times, but really any time year round, we are constantly busy selling firms, talking to buyers and sellers, so you can always contact us. There is no real bad time to do that. In terms of having a conversation, obviously we have less and less buyers during the height of tax season because everybody's hunkered down and can't talk, but we do those to some extent. If you're looking to actually get started, there's a way that you can do that. It's on the screen. and my phone numbers, I'll show those to you here in a while along with an email. We do what we call confidential phone calls where we get on you and basically cover three things. Learn about you and your firm, staff that you have, learn about your clients just by asking you several questions. The questions I typically ask are basically the 24 or 24 questions that we just covered in the webinar here today, because those are what our buyers ask. Number two, after we go through that question and answer period, we can actually give you on the call kind of a rough idea of the potential value of your firm, given the current market, your location. And obviously, number three, we'll answer any questions that you have about the entire sales process, what we go through here, how it works, what to expect, our broker fees, and why to choose ABA over other brokers that are out there, because there are other brokers nationally and regionally that do what we do. We feel, obviously, that we do it better than they do, but you do have other options. Here's a way that you can schedule a call with me and another broker on our team, Cynthia. Up at the top, you're always welcome to use these links. You would just type this in. This is a web link for Cynthia and myself, or our phone numbers are down here and our emails are down here. I'll give you mine real quick. 317-648-7770 is my phone number. You can call or text me on that number. Or my email here is jeff@accttsales.com. Cynthia, as you can see down here too. And those are good ways to get a hold of us to, again, if you want to schedule a confidential phone call. Even if it's not getting started but you have questions about the process, we're always happy to talk about that. Yeah, if there is some question that you have and I didn't answer, probably the best way is to email me at jeff@accttsales.com, and I'll be happy to answer those particular questions that you have. If I'm busy or don't respond, you can always email Cynthia at her email address down here, or call her at her phone number too. So again, everybody, I appreciate your time. I hope I didn't take too much of it, but just to recap on this webinar, what we covered were what buyers are looking for and analyze in a practice, the current market here in 2025 and beyond. Like I said, depending upon your location and these answers to the 24 questions about you being flexible, it could be a buyer's market, it could be a seller's market. Again, it all depends about what your client mix is, your staffing. Are you from a standpoint of flexibility able to bend a little bit on some of these depending upon what buyers are looking for? And from a timing standpoint, if you want to get started, 2025 is going to be a very busy year. We expect, again, that's going to pick up obviously after tax season, and we expect 2026 and beyond to be just as busy or more busy based on the retirement numbers of the baby boomers and other people that may just get to the point where they want to change careers or do something different. We're going to have a lot of those potential buyers looking at sellers like that to acquire firms. I covered the next three steps. You can call us now, set up, have an appointment, and talk about, what to do either before tax season really get started or just after tax season. We're happy to work with anybody and everybody now. You can wait till after tax season or any time the rest of the year. You're always welcome to call us. This is the process that we do as brokers, and we spend a lot of time making sure that we do this very, very well. And we think that as a broker nationally, we have very little competition. There are other brokers out there that do very similar to what we do. If you do hire a broker, I'll tell you this, don't hire a general business broker. Hire somebody like us that specializes in accounting practice, acquisitions, sales. We, as that group of subset of a broker, do a much better job than general brokers. just because the specialization nature of what you do as an accounting practice, there's a lot of information that general brokers just aren't aware of and aren't good at. It's going to take you a lot longer. We do get a lot of referrals from general business brokers that will try and sell an accounting or a CPA firm and are unable to do that. We even get referrals from other national brokers just like ourselves that whether it's the size of your firm or some other aspect of your firm that they just don't or aren't interested in, they'll send those over to us. And so that's kind of our reputation in the industry. We'll work with and we're able to sell accounting firms that may be a little bit challenging for one reason or the other. But either way, we're very interested in talking with you and working with you if you are looking at trying to sell your firm in 2025 or 2026 and beyond. Again, you can always go on our website, acctSales.com, learn more about us and the entire team there. All the different brokers and our president, Chuck Hayes, are listed there, our contact information. Also, there's lots of articles that we like to write, and I write personally myself. And you're welcome to read those. They're articles for buyers, articles for sellers like yourself, and they are very helpful, even if you've been doing this for 30 or 40 years, just to kind of give you insights into the process. And I guess last but not least, if you have any questions, there's my phone number that you can always reach me at, email and the website, and we'd love to talk to you. This has been Jeff Bell, and this presentation, Finding the Right Buyer for Your Accounting, CPA or EA Practice in 2025 or 2026 and beyond. If I haven't talked to you or met you yet, I'd really like to. Feel free to give me a call, send me an email, or a text, and love to start a conversation with you. Thanks again, everybody, for spending time on the call today. I appreciate it. Good luck during tax season. Don't work too hard. Take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.